nearly because of Johnny Wilkinson. It's nearly like a rite of passage for kickers, I found.
Obviously, over in Ireland, there's a lot of low tee kickers. That green one, I think Sexton uses, and the Gilbert. Did you have coaches have a crack at that, and also with the foot down technique, the Dave Allred style, and all that? Did you play around with that style?
I actually didn't really. I know it is quite common here, and it's nearly because of Johnny Wilkinson.
Mm.
It's nearly like a rite of passage for kickers. I found they'd nearly look down on you for not using those kickers or those kicking tees. I'd find sometimes, but again, I just went back to what was working for me. I find now, as the years have gone by and I understand kicking so much, I just feel like yes, Johnny Wilkinson was one of the best kickers ever, and that worked for him. But he was also one of the hardest workers. And if I was to say which type of tee would suit just a normal kicker or a club level kicker in our weather conditions, this is what comes into play. Johnny Wilkinson was playing in stadiums which are covered from a lot of wind. I'm talking people playing in Galway, playing in Belfast, when the wind is horrific and you're playing on fields that aren't great. I feel like a tee that you can punch ball in wind, which is like a low cut, medium cut, is vital for me. It's an essential for the wind and weather we get. Whereas I find people with the Gilbert tees, if they don't hit it purely, they can't punch the ball into the wind and they struggle when it gets bad. So I think for the normal average kicker, for me, that's a better tee to use because of the ability to punch in our wind and weather.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it. Obviously, from not playing in that poor conditions and punching into the wind, I also think that the style of tee, like the vortexes, is in the Gilbert telescopic tees, whatever, is when you're young. It's a slightly easier tee to get the ball off the ground and just have an enjoyable kick at goal. I feel like it's just a slightly more forgiving style of kick. I do want to ask about your mindset. So in game, you've had some awesome kicking recently that I've sort of seen on your Instagram page, like really good games, 7 from 7s, those sort of games. What are you doing with your mindset? Team scores, you're about to have a kick before you even put the ball on the tee. Have you got something that you go to with your mindset?
Yeah, I'd be a little bit different coming from that football soccer background. I have no swing thoughts in terms of my ability to strike a ball. So I grew up kind of in like a cul-de-sac in Dublin, and all I played was football against a garage. And what the thing with the garage is that if I hit it over the garage, I had to climb into like flats behind that and get the ball. So I'm two things. I'm a really good striker of a decent low ball, and I'm also a very good climber because I used to have to keep climbing in to get my ball back. But for me, if you go and ask me where do I kick the ball or tell me to think about kicking the ball, I just kick the floor. I can't do it. I just have to kick the ball just freely. So what I do is in my warm-ups, I'll kick the ball off the floor. I'll just put the ball down on the ground and I'll kick it until I feel like I'm kicking really well. And I aim at the crossbar for the first couple of reps. And I'll do this in the warm-up to a game. And then I'll go back even 40, 45 meters off the floor until I feel like the ball is coming sweetly off my foot. And the analogy I use is it's like going to the driving range and you hit off the floor in the driving range and it's so difficult. Imagine hitting a 4-iron off the floor and then you put it up on a tee. How much easier that is. So I brought this into my warm-up now for games that I kick well off the floor and then I put it on a tee and I go, this is so easy. How much easier is this now that I can kick through that? So for me, that's a big thing of my game is to no thoughts of how I'm going to kick the ball. So when I get to a big kick, it's sometimes I'll touch the floor, which means, come on, John, let's go, concentrate. And then I'll get back and all I do is think about my breath and relax. And sometimes I think about my mum in the crowd or whatever like that. But I'm never, ever thinking about how I'm going to kick this ball. I'm never thinking about explosive thoughts of to the ball, through the ball, explode through. Because for me, that just clouds my brain. All I'm thinking about is just relax, kick the ball. This is fun. Put the ball over the bar. And sometimes before games, I'll do the mentality of watching YouTube, and sometimes in the change rooms, I'll just go on my notes and I'll write down three things. It might be 3 or 4 things, and it could be commit to every kick. Sometimes it's you miss 100% shots you don't take. Be brave and be greedy. And then I have other thoughts that sometimes come that week, maybe something I did wrong or something that I can do better. Sometimes just be enjoy the moment, stuff like that. And I'll have those thoughts in the warm up or just before the game, and that's it. They're gone, and then I come into the game ready to go.
So I love how free you are and how simple you have made it, and I think that's where the gold is. Like, a lot of kickers get to that phase of the enjoyment part of it, and just being free. How deliberate are you with, say, your ball setup, with your steps, with your spacing? Is that still just quite easy and flowy, or is that like set and deliberate?
Yeah, that would be the opposite. So I'd be very deliberate on my steps with the ball placement on the tee and getting everything that I can control completely right before I take the kick. I treat it essentially like a caddy and a golfer again. So even the guy bringing on the tee, I'll have primed them before that you need to do this, this, this. So I might need the wind here and I might need your help. Because again, I treat it like a caddy. I want him to come on and maybe have a bit of crack with me. I don't mind if he's kind of joking with me or be like, "Oh, you missed that one," or "Oh, can you get this one?" Even just a little bit of banter, it kind of takes me out of the moment, but then back in, and stuff like I use chalk, wind chalk, direction chalk. It's hunting chalk at the moment, which Craig Newby out in New Zealand, and you know him, got me on because on prosthetic pitches, the worst thing about it is you've got no read time of wind. You can't pick up the grass and check the wind. So as a kicker, it's really difficult. So I wanted to put every odd in my favor that I can and control what I can. So if I can understand the wind and I know the other out half or kicker can't, I feel like I'm gaining an advantage over him. So some simple things like that, I'm really anal about getting correct all the time. My steps should be always right, and I'm really weird with ball placement on tee. I feel like a centimeter change just before the kick can be the difference between me getting it and not getting it. And sometimes I nearly do the kick in my brain, and I go, if you kick this ball right now, you're missing left. So I'm like thinking about it before, and then you see me quite late sometimes the kick going back up and fixing it because I know I'm going to miss a left if I don't take it. So I'd never take the kick until I feel comfortable because there's nothing worse. Once you miss that kick, it's gone. You cannot change what happened. So I try to get everything in my favor and then be free in the actual striking ability. So I control what I can because that is all I can control. I can miss kicks, that's fine, but I can control how I get the ball placed on the tee. I control my steps, and I can also control my training that week. So the days off during the week or the midweek down day, I can't understand how people take that off as a professional rugby player. I don't miss that. I never miss it. I do my kicking on that day, and that's a work day for me. And I take that very seriously. You wouldn't get me as enjoyed or as smiley on that day because my missus can't understand that I can come home and be so angry and annoyed about something that didn't matter in her eyes. She goes, "Well, that didn't matter." I go, "It does matter. It does. I didn't kick well enough." So I think I've only come home twice, three times maybe this season, midweek, and been actually happy with how I've been kicking. And I'm kicking at 88% in the league and for the year. So I rarely come home happy during the week because my standards have just gotten up and up. So if I leave 9 out of 11, I'm annoyed because I feel like I should have been 10 or 11. So that kind of pushes me on. Then in games, it's way easier.
There's there's so many different threads that I can pull on, and all that stuff that you just mentioned there. I think the one thing that I love is what you mentioned about if the ball is sitting on the tee and it's even late, you've got to the back of your mark and you think, nah, that's just isn't quite right, that you do take yourself out to go fix it. I think that sometimes we coach and we do say things like just enjoy the kick, like just get a nice strike and take the pressure off, without that same focus on my setup, my valve, my steps, the length of steps that I've taken to make all that as absolutely, as you say, be in control of what you can control. Like you can tick so many boxes and be at 100% before you've even kicked the ball. And I think that leaning into that detail and understanding it is the recipe for success. And I love your day off. I think we're a little bit far behind with rugby with how we treat skill acquisition. There's golfers that go to the driving range day in, day out. There's Tiger Woods having 1,000 touches of a golf club every day leading into the Masters, like so many examples in the NBA. So I want to hear more about that. What does that Wednesday do for you? What does it do for you physically, mentally? What do you try to achieve in that?